From The National, this is Trending Middle East. I'm Yasmin Al-Taji. It's Friday, September 12th. Here are today's headlines. Qatar will host an emergency Arab-Islamic summit on Sunday and Monday. That's after the unprecedented Israeli attack on Doha earlier this week. Israel launched an airstrike on a building in Qatar's capital on Tuesday in an attempt to kill Hamas political leaders. It's drawn widespread international condemnation. None of the targeted Hamas leaders were killed, the group said. Qatar's Emir, Sheikh Tamim, attended funerals for the victims yesterday. In an interview with CNN aired on Thursday, Qatari Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman bin Jassim Al Thani said the strike undermines efforts at reaching a truce.
It's not only an undermining for our sovereignty and infringing our sovereignty. It's undermining for the entire negotiation. It's undermining for the U.S. effort. There is like a very minimum level of manners. I mean, honestly, I have no words to express how outraged we are from such an action.
Also on Thursday, Qatar denied an Axios report that the Gulf state was, quote, reassessing, unquote, its security partnership with the U.S. as, quote, categorically false, unquote. The statement said, quote, the Qatar-U.S. security and defense partnership is stronger than ever and continues to grow, unquote. Qatar hosts the largest U.S. military base in the Middle East. The Israeli attack on Qatar sent shockwaves across the region. Now, some politicians in Turkey think it could be next. Conservative politicians in Ankara have suggested that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government will next set its sights on Turkey, where Hamas officials frequently meet. But the likelihood of an open attack similar to the strikes on Doha is low. That's according to officials and analysts who spoke to The National. The National's Lizzie reports from Istanbul.
Turkey has had quite a long and close relationship with Hamas. Ankara does not consider the group a terrorist organization. The leaders of Hamas, so Politburo members and others, spend significant amount of time in the country. They come to and fro and they meet with Turkish politicians and frequently talk with ministers on the telephone and also meet them in person. Now, after the attack on Qatar, there was condemnation immediately from Turkey. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan held a call with the Emir of Qatar and said that he was discussing joint steps to be taken with Qatar in response, although he did not detail anything. But there are some in Turkey that say that Ankara is not going far enough to sort of repel Israel.
Turkish lawmakers say they're aware of the risk of Israel striking Hamas targets in the country. Countries in the region are attempting to minimize the possibility of further Israeli attacks elsewhere, observers believe. Egypt, this week, petitioned to the U.S. for guarantees that there wouldn't be any additional Israeli strikes on Hamas leaders in other countries.
So there is that sentiment. On the other hand, I think if you speak to more kind of people who are saying sort of calm down, let's not sort of say that there's going to be an escalation. The fact that Turkey is a NATO member does provide some level of protection, I think, because in the NATO agreements, if there was an attack on any member, there would be discussions around them coming to that country's defense. I think also President Erdogan has a good relationship with President Trump, and Trump was not best pleased about the Israeli attacks on Qatar and would oppose any attack on Turkey. Now, one thing that has been mentioned to me is Israel might not go for a sort of overt and claimed attack like it did on Qatar, but the fact that there is a Hamas presence and support in Turkey means that they may look to do more covert operations.
The Wall Street Journal reported that Egyptian and Turkish officials had told Hamas to tighten security around their meetings in the region before the strikes on Doha. A French delegation arrived in Lebanon yesterday. French envoy Jean-Yves Le Drian arrived in Beirut on Thursday. He was joined by French Ambassador Hervé Magro at the presidential palace to meet with Lebanese President Joseph Aoun. The visit comes before a planned conference in Paris to discuss aid to Lebanon. The National's Maucourant Atallah reports.
Lebanon, which has been reeling from a devastating economic crisis, is in desperate need of this funding. International donors have made clear there will be no aid unless Beirut implements long-delayed economic reforms and curbs Hezbollah's weapons.
France is planning 2 international conferences for Lebanon, one to support the army and another for reconstruction and economic recovery once the, quote, appropriate conditions are met, unquote. Donors have tied aid to the implementation of economic and institutional reforms and curbing Hezbollah's weapons.
Lebanon is a former protectorate of France and has long played a key role in mediation and remains quite influential in the country.
Le Drian's visit comes a week after the army presented Lebanon's cabinet with a plan to rid Hezbollah of its weapons, but the group has refused to disarm. The army plan consists of 5 stages, starting with a 3-month phase to completely disarm the group in the area south of the Litani River. That runs about 30 kilometers north from the border with Israel. A U.S.-mediated truce in November ended 14 months of conflict between Hezbollah and Israel. But despite that deal, Israel has continued to strike southern Lebanon almost daily.
The question now is whether Lebanon's government can push ahead with this army plan and implement this army plan without triggering a direct confrontation with Hezbollah.
That's all for this morning's headlines. You can get these stories and follow our live coverage at thenationalnews.com. Yasmin Al-Taji, The National.